Have you noticed something shifting at the pump lately? Maybe you felt a little difference.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a pretty significant development, something that touches almost everyone's daily life, especially if you're driving or, relying on transport.
Absolutely.
We're doing a deep dive today into the recent reductions, quite noticeable ones, in petrol prices across Nigeria. And we're drawing insights from recent reports by Tribune Online and Daily Post Nigeria.
Good sources there.
Yeah. So our mission today is to cut through the immediate headlines, really get to the core of what's happening, why it's happening now, and crucially, what this might mean for you, our listener.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is just how quickly these significant market shifts can, ripple through an entire economy. It affects everything, doesn't it? Personal budgets, supply chains. We'll be examining not just the price change itself, but also digging into those underlying forces and the market dynamics really at play.
Okay, so let's jump straight into the main news then. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited.
Mm-hmm.
They've made a pretty clear move.
A big one.
Slashing the pump price of premium motor spirit, PMS, petrol basically.
Right.
We're talking a drop down to N910 per liter. That's from N945 previously.
So that's an N35 cut.
Exactly. N35 off the official price right there. And this new price, it kicked in just this past Saturday, July 5th, 2025. It's already active at NNPC outlets.
Okay.
Our sources confirm it's in effect in key Abuja spots, like Zone 6 on Kubu Expressway and also WU's Zone 4.
A N35 reduction per liter, for many people, that does make a noticeable difference, especially over time.
For sure.
But what's really interesting here is to think about what allows a state-owned entity like NNPC to make such a swift adjustment.
Yeah, what triggers it?
What could possibly prompt that kind of immediate reaction in their pricing?
That's a really good point. And what makes it even more compelling is that this NNPC, it didn't just happen in isolation, did it?
No, not at all.
It actually followed very closely, like right on the heels of a similar development from a major private player.
Yes. You're talking about Dango.
Exactly. Dangote Petroleum Refinery. They actually took the lead here, reducing their ex-depot price for petrol.
Right. The price marketers pay before retail.
Yes. They dropped it from N980 down to N940 per liter.
And that was even earlier, wasn't it?
It was, effective June 30th.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just rumor, it was confirmed officially by their group spokesperson, Anthony Chijina.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights how these, significant players in the market can effectively set a precedent.
Mm-hmm.
When a major private refinery like Dangote makes a move like that, reducing their wholesale price, it often creates this ripple effect. It influences others.
It's pressure on them.
Exactly. It sets a new kind of competitive benchmark. Others in the industry almost feel they have to respond. It hints at some maybe evolving market dynamics, perhaps even a shift in who's leading on pricing.
Okay, so that naturally leads us to the big question, the one probably on your mind right now. Why? Why are we seeing these price drops now? What's the wider context tying these moves together?
Yeah, what's the underlying cause?
Well, our sources point pretty directly to one main reason, and it's something happening far beyond Nigeria's borders.
Global factors.
Precisely. These recent reductions, this wave of them, they're linked directly to a drop in global crude oil prices.
Okay.
Now, this volatility in crude prices, according to the reports, followed weeks of, heightened global tensions, specifically sparked by the Israel-Iran conflict.
Right, that period of uncertainty.
And then renewed tensions after the bombing of 3 Iranian nuclear facilities.
Yeah.
The sources attribute this action to U.S. President Donald Trump. We're just reporting the facts as stated in the sources here.
And it's just such a stark reminder, isn't it, about the profound interconnectedness, how global events link straight to local economies.
It's immediate.
It really is. What's fascinating here is how quickly events happening, halfway across the world, geopolitical tensions impacting a commodity like crude oil.
Yeah.
How that can translate so fast into changes you see right there at your local petrol station.
It's incredible.
These conflicts, they inject uncertainty, right, into global supply, which often makes prices spike due to speculation. But conversely, any sign of de-escalation or maybe just a change in expected supply disruption, that can cause prices to fall just as quickly, which seems to be what we're seeing play out now.
And interestingly, the impact wasn't just, limited to the big players, the giants like NNPC and Dangote.
No, the effect broadened out.
Exactly. Our sources are reporting that members of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association, IPMN, they also adjusted their pump prices downwards.
So the smaller stations too.
Right, indicating a much wider market reaction.
Yeah.
To give you some specifics, in Abuja, retail prices fell. They landed somewhere between N930 and N940 per liter. Down from previous highs of around N945. Even up to N975 in some places.
Okay, that's quite a range, but definitely lower.
Definitely. And in Lagos, another key market, prices apparently dropped to about N890 per liter, down from N925 or so.
N890 in Lagos. Okay.
So it's not just the NNPC stations or those supplied directly by Dangote. It feels like a market-wide shift.
And that's fascinating to see, isn't it? The entire market responding when those leading players, your NNPCs and Dangotes, initiate a significant price shift.
Yeah.
It often creates this competitive pressure. Independent marketers, who often work on tighter margins anyway,
Right.
they frequently have little choice but to follow suit if they want to stay competitive, if they want to keep customers coming.
Makes sense.
So this mechanism, it helps ensure that the benefits of these price drops, which are ultimately driven by global factors, can actually reach a much wider range of consumers all across the country, really.
So let's wrap this up then. In this deep dive, we basically unpacked how major players, starting with NNPC, have reduced petrol prices recently.
Following that initial move by Dangote.
Right, influenced by Dangote's earlier move. And all of this, we found, stems from a really complex interplay of global crude oil prices.
Which themselves were fluctuating.
Due to significant geopolitical events happening elsewhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to a final thought, something for you, our listener, to maybe chew on.
Okay.
As we see just how quickly these global tensions, these faraway events, can translate into very real, very local economic shifts, like the price you pay at the pump. What does this tell us?
What does it suggest?
What does it suggest about the future stability or maybe the inherent volatility of prices for essential things, essential commodities in our world today?
That's a big question.
And maybe how might understanding these connections, these global links, better prepare us, better equip us to navigate what seems like an increasingly interconnected and maybe unpredictable economic future?
Powerful questions indeed. Definitely something to think about. Keeps that curiosity going, keep digging into the information that shapes your world, because, well, understanding these connections really does empower you.